Your next speakers, Aden Hakimi and Michelle Charles. Hollaback worked with the director, Aden Hakimi, to create a video to release as part of a video series showing a variety of experiences and perspectives around street harassment. So we do the video first, or should I introduce who they are?
Video first? Video first.
Video first.
Catcalls generally, like, they just kind of get to me because I already feel in my own body, like, as someone who's, like, generally exotified. So it kind of, like, just brings it home for me that, like, I look different and it's, like, okay for people to come up to me and, you know, present that to me. There are people that I expect it from almost. There are places I walk where it happens often. So I automatically kind of almost flinch up into myself because of the things that have been said to me before. On a typical day, it's gonna happen at least once or twice. I don't know that I've ever really gone through a day where it's where it's never happened. You know, being harassed on the street, it does almost kind of take away from my feelings of self-worth almost. You know, there's so much more to a person than their physical appearance, and you know, street harassment isn't always just about like physical appearance in terms of being attractive. It's just about physical experience of being a femme person. I think, you know, like, you know, you're walking, talking, and sexually available. The conversations that I've had with men in my life around street harassment have been pretty varied. I would say for the most part, they try to grapple at every like last straw in their brains for why, you know, it's not harassment and that's the wrong word. What if the love of your life is in the street and you've just ignored them, or you've just outlawed, you know, their ability to approach you? And I just kind of say to that, like, you know, first off, if I'm trying to go someplace, you know, maybe being the love of my life might not be my biggest priority right now. Like, I know it's supposed to be, but it's not right now. I'm trying to get to work, I'm sorry. You know, my biggest frustration with those guys who just won't admit it is this fact that, you know, they're valuing their, you know, kind of abstract devil's advocate thinking over the lived experience that I have every day. Having a very visceral experience of like, here, look, you wanted facts, look what's happening to me, look what's happening to me, is almost the only way that it can come across strongly. And I feel like that's first off upsetting that that's the only way it can come across strongly. Like, I feel like I should be able to just tell you what's happening to me and you believe me and we work together to do corrective action. There's definitely something kind of societal at play here, right? It's almost like, you know, what I say to you about what I experience and what I feel and how I perceive it is not a fact, and that your abstractions should kind of, you know, usurp those. So that's very frustrating. It feels very much so like I'm being invalidated. It feels like I'm not being heard. And it feels like I'm just banging my head against the wall. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having us. Do you have this one? Why don't is this one on?
I think it is.
One of these.
The button's on the bottom. Button's on the bottom.
Buttons on the bottom. Is this actually on? Okay, good. So you have your... Hi.
Hi.
So first thing is that Emily May had reached out to me to make basically a follow-up to that 10-hour walking video. And I was like, oh, woo, okay, that's really intense. Like this, it was like right, it was still going, and I had a lot of issues with it, and I thought it was amazing at the same time, and like a lot of conversations, and I was like, why are you picking a guy to do this? But I took it really seriously, and so I took the casting really seriously. And I reached out to a bunch of people and gave, you know, I was trying to find women of color, queer women of color, trans women of color, and then like, do I have the language to tell that story? And how do I be like a conduit between her story and the audience and not have my voice really be a part of it at all and just have my skill set help do it? And I didn't want it, I wanted it to be genuine and not be tokenizing and not be sensationalizing, which is very difficult to do when you're telling someone's story that is often marginalized and sensationalized and tokenized. And so I got really lucky and I found Michelle, and we had a lot of chat before we made the video, which we didn't end up showing the first one that we made. And this, what we just showed was a snippet from an hour-long interview we had after the first shoot. And it's this interview that then completely changed the direction we took the video, which you'll see at the end. And I'll talk about that later, but then I want Michelle to talk about the process.
Hi, yeah, so I was very excited about joining this video. I found Aden because he posted in this group that we both follow for queer identified folk. And I immediately kind of latched on to the idea. Oh, is that my phone? I immediately kind of latched on to the idea because it's something I'm super passionate about. I had been having a lot of conversations with the men in my life, particularly a boyfriend at the time too, about, you know, just street harassment and how I experienced it and how wrong it was and how it felt. And it just felt like no matter how much I was explaining it to these people and, you know, no matter how much, you know, my male friends wanted to understand, they just couldn't kind of meet me there because it doesn't happen around them. You know, what I've noticed too is if I'm walking down the street with a man by my side, it won't happen, it mysteriously goes away. Or I've noticed too, you know, I remember one instance, I was, you know, going to my house, I had just been traveling, so I was bringing a heavy suitcase back in. And I have next door neighbors. These people are my neighbors. I know them. I see them every day. And, you know, they're just yelling obscenities at me. And, you know, my dad gets out the car to help me load in my suitcase, and all of a sudden it stops. You know, just silence. So it's hard to explain it sometimes to men because quite often men don't see it. You know, there's some kind of code of respect between people. So, you know, I thought to myself, you know, this will be really cool to. You can't deny it's happening. You're gonna watch this happen to me. Like, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, and so we kind of mirrored it after the original 10-hour shoot. And I said, you know, we'll have it be a real experience. We will walk from Central Park down to Union Square through all the people and have it be very clear. This is where we're walking. You'll see all the landmarks. And we set up a backpack. We had her mic'd 12 different ways, and I was walking in front of her. And we went, and it just felt so like it felt really weird to be wanting her to be catcalled or waiting for her to be catcalled. And like, where do we go where there's more guys? And she's like, oh, I get catcalled a lot here. And the whole thing just felt really bizarre, you know, that like we have to actually make her get harassed for you to listen to her getting her, like to pay attention to the fact that she's getting harassed. And that's really messed up. And so we had this hour-long interview afterwards where we just talked about everything. I mean, race, gender, sexuality. I wish I could show the whole thing, but that's like, it's an hour long. And you'll just have to believe us that it's really profound.
Great.
And so a lot of what was said in this interview that we showed is what then completely changed our mind. I had a long chat with Emily and a bunch of people at HOLLA and Michelle about how to reposition it. Because even in the first video, a lot of the issue was that that woman, even in it, felt like an object. She wasn't talking, she wasn't saying anything, she was just like a carrot being dangled out to find creep. So even in that, she felt a little bit objectified to me. So I thought, let's just switch it around. And so we put the camera on Michelle. And as she walked, you know, so there's some bounce and there's some this, you know, because she's got some swagger. And so it's not this clean, you know, walking with a 5D and we're gonna make it beautiful. It's like, it's not about that. It's about you being in her body and just listening to her, talking about the fact that, you know, harassment exists even when it's not happening. Like the fact that it's, and so a lot of it was what she was saying, like even when it's not happening, it's still present. I still have to decide what to wear and all of that. And so we did a completely new shoot. And then we decided, you know, to have a voiceover, and we collaborated on the script because I didn't want to write it, it's not my story. And so we sat and we chatted about that. And you'll see it again, you'll hear Michelle again in that. But one of the things that I want to say, because I know we're a bit tight on time, is that we kind of knew it wouldn't go viral because it's just a woman talking to you. And
who wants to hear that?
Right? Yes, yes. And it was really profound. And we talked about it before it even happened. We talked about it while we were writing, was that what it's going to show, and we don't know if that conversation is going to happen or not, is that people are more likely to watch a woman get harassed for 2 minutes than listen to her talk for 90 seconds. And so we were like, screw it, we're doing it anyways, because that's important too. And then we also didn't want it to be like you watched her, so you got to judge what she was wearing or how she was walking or what she did. It's like, just shut up and listen to her. And yeah, so I mean,
yeah, I thought it was cool the way it came out because, you know, during the walk, there were a couple instances, you know, that we could have used in the video if we wanted to make it a little bit more sensational. But then I just kind of went back to that original point that I was like thinking like, wow, it's gonna be so cool that I can show people what happens to me, and thought, wait a second, that's really wrong. Like, you know, I really wanna be able to, you know, like trust my male peers that they'll listen to me, you know? I wanna be able to trust that you don't have to see it in order to believe that it's real.
Yeah, and like why is it that when we take the object away, you don't care anymore? Mm-hmm. You know, like why isn't the story itself more relevant? Mm-hmm. And you know, there was a lot we wanted to discuss in it about, you know, men of color on the street versus white men in a club, in a bar, online, you know, those types of places, who just verbally harasses, who physically harasses. Mm-hmm. Her experience as a woman of color versus, you know, what a white woman might experience, what an Asian woman might experience, what a fat woman might experience, what a disabled woman might experience, what a trans woman might experience. So there's a lot of stories to be told. So 90 seconds is a very difficult amount of time as a filmmaker to say so much and to let all the amazing things that she said kind of come across. So we felt this was a good compromise between what I was trying to do as a director and as someone who was hired to make something, you know, and what the organization was wanting out of us as well. And also the genuine experience that you have, and having that be there, and hoping that people can connect to that and have that create dialogue. And it was awesome working with you. Yeah. And thank you all for being here and having me do this and trusting in me. And, yeah. Cool. So now I think I'll show you the 90-second piece that we ended up making. So thank you very much.
Street harassment affects me before I even get out on the street. I can wear the yoga pants or dress that I want and accept that someone's gonna hurl a "look at that ass shake," or I can cover up and change when I get to my destination. It feels like a choose-your-own gross sexual advance adventure. The guys who shout at me in the street are often different from the guys who come up to me in bars or online or even on the subway and say things like, "I've never been with a black girl before," or even worse, they might try to run their fingers in my hair. If I'm walking with a man, nobody says anything. When I'm with a female partner, then it's just like open season for everyone. I get harassed by guys in groups so often that even if I'm walking past a perfectly nice group of guys, I still prepare for the possibility that they'll harass me. The worst thing about harassment for me is that it happens so fast. He probably won't even remember doing it, and I have to work to forget it. I don't want to feel like the only safe space is in my house. I don't want to feel like it's on me to not wear what I want or be where I want, because in the end, I'll be blamed if someone harasses me. And I shouldn't have to show it happening for you to believe me. I don't need you to play devil's advocate. I need you to be my advocate.